Okay, good morning, everybody. I'm glad a lot of people walked out and was, oh, no, stay in the room because we have such a nice talk. And it's, well, it's going to be mostly a bit of fun, basically, right? So it's a good way to start the day, I think. So we are going to talk about, well, software development methodologies. And there's been quite a few. As you can see, I'm an old guy, so I've seen them all. I wrote a few actually myself, so let's start off with a short history of methodologies, right? If my clicker works. It should work, it doesn't. What is that? That's the first time ever it doesn't work. Oh well.
Mine work? Yeah, mine does.
Mine does. Give me yours. So, there goes technology for, how does this one work? Okay, so let's start with a short history of methodologies, right? So, as I said, I'm an old guy, and really early on, well, early on for a lot of, most people here, because most of you are younger than I am, I would assume, right? So let's start in the 1970s, right? We started with this thing called waterfall. It's not, the nice thing about waterfall, it didn't exist until 1970. So if you wrote software before that, like in 1968 or something, nobody did, but, well, none of us, I would suppose. But so in 1970, there was a guy called Winston Royce, and Winston Royce wrote a white paper. Now, this white paper is called Managing the Development of Large Software Systems, and it's actually a really good white paper. And you're like, how can it be good? Because it defines waterfall. Yes, it does, but not on purpose. Actually, if you look into the white paper, you see this picture. You know this picture, right? You've seen this. You've had it in school, university. If you work for a large government agency, it's probably still there. And this is the waterfall model, right? This is the model where you do everything only once, and it needs to be perfect before you get to the next stage, right? So you need to have all your requirements complete and fully written down before you can do analysis, before you can do design. And after the design is completely done and you have like 20 big folders full of paper, then you can go write the code. After that, you do some testing and you put it into operations. That's waterfall, right? You've been there, right? Now, we all know this doesn't work, right? We sort of figured this out in the industry over time. The nice thing is, Winston Royce, actually, he wrote this down, this is figure 2 in the white paper, and from there, lots of big companies adopted this model. But they adopted it wrongly. Why? Well, I'll show you picture 3 in the same white paper, which is this one. Winston Royce, in 1970, actually said, wait, you might have to go back to a previous stage instead of putting it fully in concrete, and then you can reiterate and go back and do it once more. That is a really interesting thought, actually, in 1970. Nobody came up with that before. He actually says, hopefully the iterative interaction between the various phases is confined to successive steps. He says, let's hope you only have to go back one stage. And we all know that's rarely the case. You know that you always need to go back to the requirements. People come up with new ideas. You go forward and back, et cetera, et cetera. It gets even better because in the same white paper, he also said this. Note that it is simply the entire process done in miniature to a time scale that is relatively small in respect to the overall effort. He actually says, well, these activities are okay, but you should do them in small slices, right? Do a bit of requirements, a bit of analysis, some design, some building, testing, you go back and back and back. And you might like, wait, we know this stuff, right? This is called agile. In 1970, right? What did we do in the 50 years in between? Well, we failed at really big projects, basically, in between. So, and then came agile, right? Agile is also, well, quite old, right? The Agile Manifesto dates to 2001. Most of us started doing this stuff in the late 90s of the previous century. And for a lot of people, Agile sort of means this, right? We're not going to do some planning anymore. We're just going to write some code, see what happens, and whatever. That is what Agile means to a lot of people. It's actually not. It's actually much more professional than it looks, actually. That doesn't mean, by the way, this is Scrum. This is about Agile, pure Agile, right? And then came all these nice frameworks that we sort of adopted in the industry, stuff like Scrum, and then Scrum sort of became synonymous for Agile, which it really isn't. And then everybody said, oh, we're doing Scrum, so we're Agile. No, you're not. And then came everybody else in the industry that said, you know what, we can make tons of money out of this stuff, right? And that's a good thing. So let's try and do that. So, and then people who originally signed the Agile Manifesto, they sort of stepped out, right? Dave Thomas, he's like, yeah, you know what? He says, unfortunately, I think, well, let's put a marker on it. Unfortunately, I think time has proven me right. The word agile has been subverted to the point where it's effectively meaningless. And what passes for an agile community seems to be largely an arena for vendors and consultants to hawk services and products. We all know this, right? We know these products. We use these products, basically. So then I stopped going to Agile conference as well, right? It's like, if you go to Agile conference, they have stuff like this, right? Make sure you don't miss the Agile elephant versus the waterfall elephant in the lobby. What? What is that? Is there an Agile elephant in the lobby here? I hope not, right? Otherwise, I'm at the wrong conference. During this session, we're going to discuss the happiness index of projects. The happiness index? What on earth does that mean? Or are you ready for celebration before the done column on your Kanban board? No, you don't. Well, at least I hope not. Maybe you do, right? It's just like, I don't know. And then Alan, our good friend Alan, says, well, more and more, I come to see the term agile as both unnecessary and self-defeating. Agile has come to mean do part of Scrum badly and use Jira. So it's time we drop it, basically. So that is. And then the question is, so what do we do now? So we cannot do waterfall, we cannot do anything in between there, and we cannot do agile. So now what? Well, now is a good time to introduce ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I stop rattling, and you can take it over, right? So this is me. I'm Sander. I'm an independent dad. I try to give my kids some good influences, and they're older now, so they know that too. I speak a bit, I write a bit, I travel a lot. I'm sort of like a serial CTO, and I'm basically a lifelong programmer. I write code every day. And I can't say I've done that since I started coding, but I started coding in 1978. You're like, ooh. And then, yeah, you do the math, and that's like 45 years, right? And I still love doing it every day. It's kind of weird. I'm currently the CTO for this company called iBoot, and iBoot is an e-commerce company. Last year in the Netherlands, we won. We're not active in Portugal yet, but no, we don't have any plans for it. But if you want to, and we won the Website of the Year award in the Netherlands. I was there. And I'm like, what? We won the overall web. We were all very much surprised, right? Because there was like big websites and doing all sorts of stuff. And we're like, did we pay for this? And the CEO said, no, I don't think so. And then we're like, okay, let's celebrate. So that's me. Now you, right?
Yeah. So hand me my
Oh, yeah. Why doesn't mine
you
work?
fix yours.
Yeah. I will.
Yeah, so me. Does it work anymore? Yes, it does.
That would be
we
cool.
have some issues, sorry. Yeah, so I'm Kim. I work at Schubert Phyllis. It's a company that does only IT for customers that are never allowed to fail. So you make the 8 o'clock news whenever our systems go down. Like you don't get money from your ATMs again, or you cannot get your groceries or not your parcels. And of course, getting your clothing in time is really mission critical. So those kind of systems is what we control. And that's really nice because when you do something that really is so important to customers, you get to do it the way you actually want to. So often we make shortcuts in IT, and we don't have to do any shortcuts. That's what I love. So that's why I really like working there. The way we do that is in self-organizing teams. We have no managers because we think when we put the experts in the lead, we get amazing stuff. And up until now, we're proven right. So that's cool. Yeah, so time to introduce flow, I guess. So why another methodology? Well, basically, what we found was that often we try to find a methodology that will make our projects last as short as possible, right? However, we make more profit when our projects last as long as possible because, well, we are a consultancy. So the longer our products work, our projects run, the more money we make. So we thought, well, let's just do it in reverse. Let's find a methodology that will make us as much money as possible by making our projects last as long as they possibly can.
With as many people as possible, right?
Yes.
Yes.
And the lucky thing is there's plenty of inspiration in everything we do day to day. So that's good. But the first thing, of course, we need to solve is, well, naming our methodology. Because
naming
that's
is hard,
the hardest problem we have to solve. So, of course, we're going to use some Japanese words like Kaizen, Kanban, Obeya, Origami. Maybe something that ends with cracy, like holacracy, sociocracy, or idiocracy. Something, of course, with continuous D, continuous disagreement, disappointment. continuous just drop it. Something with hashtag no and maybe something with less yes, like no ops, no projects, no estimates, no SQL, no testing, no code. That's a good idea. That will make our life easier. Or maybe serverless, pointless. Of course, it has to be something as a service, SaaS, IaaS, PaaS, TaaS, maybe anything as a service or methodology as a service.
Go for that one.
And in the end, we just went for flow because it fits nicely on laptop stickers. So that's the main requirement, of course. So yeah, we have some examples.
That was a good decision, right?
Yes, it was. And we still have to get them in place, I think. So this is when you start flow, when you take the 1-hour course, that's this. And then in the advanced course, you can go with the flow, of course. When you're a flow master, you get this sticker. And when you even are more advanced, you can feel the flow, like you can be agile. In the end, you can surrender to the flow. And it is all because we have this sticker on our laptop.
Yeah. So the next thing we need to wonder is, can I get this thing back?
Yeah.
So yeah, it doesn't work. I don't get it to work. Battery's probably empty, right? So then the question is, what do you put in there, right? What if you want to have the worst software methodology in history? What are you going to do? Well, let's start with one of the nice things that really holds us up, right? Oh,
yes.
Are you all working in sprints? Are you happy with it? Does the work ever fit in the sprint? Why is that?
Does it affect your well-being?
Does it?
Yes.
Why is that? It's because we can't estimate, right? We suck at estimation. We all do, right? I've been in this industry too long. I still cannot do it. The reason of that is because most of the work we do hasn't been done before, right? Not by us, not by our teams, not by our organizations. That means we're estimating stuff that we haven't done before, which makes it probably really hard or even complex. And as a result, we are really trying to struggle with getting stuff in these sprints. So I'll show you an example. This is a burn down chart. You know what a burn down chart is, right? So yeah, okay. So of a project that took place in Belgium about 10 years ago. So they started with estimating the work that goes into the sprint. And they had a month-long sprint. And then by the end of the sprint, you can see it here, they still had some work left. That's pretty cool, right? And you're like, yeah, what? That happens to us every 2 weeks. And then it happened again, right? And again, and after the third sprint, the project manager, they had a project manager, it's 2013, right? They still had that. Yeah, well, we threw them overboard in the meantime, right? So, and then they had lots and lots of work left, and the project manager said, this is not going the right way, we need to do something. And he thought about it, and then he said, well, you know what? I'm going to hire 300 people in India. He did, actually. So, well, not 300, but 120, basically. So that helped. It didn't, actually. So they still sucked at estimation, of course, and so nothing changed. So it went on and on, except that they had a lot more people on the team, and it got way more expensive. And then after the sixth sprint, actually the project manager was fired, as it should be, right? And then they just continued. And what got even worse, because they never made the sprint, and he made them work late, so he got them food from the nearest restaurant. Now, there was a sushi restaurant, so they had to eat sushi every night, right? So I cannot eat it one day, let alone 5 days a week. So the project failed miserably. So the thing with sprints is, I'll show you the last one, actually, and the thing with sprints is that well, you spend a lot of time trying to fit stuff in there, which really doesn't fit. And the result of that is that we get more stress out of our work trying to make this stupid deadline than is really necessary. So if you want to have people to have more stress than they can handle, add sprints to your methodology, right? So that's step one.
Yeah, that would be a good thing, because then people just drop out of our teams and the projects last longer, right?
Oh.
So another thing we really need is gamification. Because then everybody can step into our industry. That solves our personnel problem, right? And it has to do with autonomy, because yes, autonomy is this little principle in the Agile Manifesto where it says, well, our teams should make all the decisions, and that's quite painful, because now you're a manager, you're really important, you have your own office, and now the team should make the decisions. Well, how to handle that, right? So we figured it out. Yes, our teams will be autonomous and are self-directive and can make their own decisions. However, they don't get to hire people. They don't get to fire people, of course, because well, who are you to decide who you want to work with? And you don't get to do any appraisals. Other people really know better how to write good code. You also don't get to decide what you work on, so we'll get you a product owner, and he will decide how the product evolves. Who are you to have an opinion? And of course, you also don't get to spend any money. So yes, we will add autonomy in Flow. However, we decide what's on the backlog. We decide who is on which team, of course.
And we is the managers, right?
Yes.
Or the consultants?
The consultants or the managers, both is fine, as long as it's not the teams.
Oh yeah, as long as they don't write code, right?
As long as they, yes, indeed. We, of course, decide what tools you are using, so Jira, and also when you have meetings. But you do get to decorate your working space.
Oh, yes.
So this is Zappos. Who doesn't want to work in a place like this, right? This is autonomy, in your face. So that's great. And of course, this is me in a job interview for a senior management position at that point in a ball pit. Yeah. So I just had to dive in.
So that's what autonomy became, right? It became, you need to have mandatory fun.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So basically, autonomy is the easiest to give away when you just allow people to, once every now and then, spend time on different things than code. And I think that's not what autonomy is, right? Maybe it should actually be about adding your specific knowledge and context to develop the best product possible. But of course, that's not what we want. We don't want good products. So yes, you get a ball pit, you get to decorate your working space in Flow. Yeah. Isn't that great?
Thank you again. So, what's next? Next we need to think about who's going to do the actual work, right? So, it's basically teams and roles, and you need to talk about resources, meaning people. And let's talk about teams first, right? So I'll take the teams first. So if you read the Scrum guide, which you can do on the bus here, basically, and it's really short, it used to say teams are about 6 plus or no, it started with this one actually, 7 plus or minus 2. And you might wonder, where did they get the 7 from? They just made it up. No, there was a paper somewhere that talked about it. Has nothing to do with IT, but let's do 7, right? We need to do something. Later, they changed it into 6 plus or minus 3. And if you look in the current Scrum guide, it says teams are smaller than 10 people, I think. It's kind of arbitrary, right? It doesn't mean anything, actually. So don't push your luck on that, basically. So if you look into other agile approaches, like disciplined agile, for instance, they have like tons of roles. Look, I'll show you. They have all this. And if you watch really closely, you can see that there's no developers on this slide. Or testers, or other people that do UI, UX, whatever. They do the actual work. This is all surrounding the team, right? It doesn't have anything to do with the team. It can be worse. Like you could work for this large American, I think by heart, consultancy. They come up with their own agile approach. This is a thing called Scrum by this giant consultancy company, which name is somewhere on the slide, I'm not going to tell you, but they are there. And they call this their agile approach. You can imagine that to do all this, for any project, whether you do Hello World or whatever, you still need 200 people. So that's a good thing. So Accenture, oh sorry, I wasn't mentioned in it. They really did a good thing here, right, by creating up. And then there's other well-known, really big agile approaches. So we need to talk about SAFe. Is anybody in a SAFe project? Quit. I have no other advice for that. Just quit, right? So the interesting thing about SAFe is I'm always wondering where they leave the customer, right? So we're going to do this quiz where we're going to say, okay, where's the customer, right? I'm going to show you the SAFe picture, and you have to guess. I found it. It's all the way to the right on the side of the picture, like nobody cares, being hit by a train. That's Scrum, right? Or Scrum, SAFe, sorry. So I sort of mix them up all the time, right? So it gets even worse. This is not the latest version. This is the latest version. So where's the customer now? It has disappeared. Well, it is customer centricity, right? That doesn't mean there's a customer. That means we talk about the customer, right? So the customer just totally went off. And he put everything in there they can find, right? They now have AI in there. So like just, yeah, you do AI. Or you create the big picture trademark. Or they put in team topologies. So Matthew Skelton, the author of Team Topologies, which is a great book, by the way, he says, SAFe includes team topologies in the way that you might push raw blueberries into a plain muffin and call it a blueberry muffin. Terrible, right?
It is.
Yeah. So then we need to talk about people. I'm sorry, I mean resources, right? So, yeah, well, they call us resources anyway, so just, why bother? Just resources. We're the resources. Yay. I hate it when people talk about, managers talk about resources. How many resources do you need? Well, you mean what? Chairs, computers, desks? No. The people. Oh, those. Just call them people.
Yeah.
And anyway, so and then there's all these Scrum Masters and Agile coaches, and I'm always wondering what these people do, right? Now, I'll tell you what they do. They'll go to Agile coach camps. That's what, Agile retreats, in weekends, of course, because, well, nobody wants to. Agile leadership weekends. So they go to do stuff like this, right? And I actually know people in this picture. It's kind of weird. So, so they go to Obeya Knowledge Networks meetups. I don't know what it is, actually, but what they do is they play games. That's what they do. They made us play games, right? And then they said, well, like, looking forward to day 2, where we will be zooming more into agile metrics. Agile metrics do not exist, by the way. No, not t-shirt sizing or whatever you think of. That is not an agile metric. That is just silly. And the marriage between Scrum and Kanban. I have no idea what it is, actually. It was weird stuff, right? So, and they add liberating structures to it, like meeting structures where you can do 50% solutions. Well, all our solutions are 50% solutions. That doesn't, or discover and action dialogue, improv prototyping. I have no idea what this stuff is. And as a developer, the only thing I can say is, where is the code? I'll keep it nicely, right?
Yes, indeed. So, yes, that's going to work. Of course, what we also need is DevOps. Because if you look at DevOps, well,
yeah.
Why was it found? It was to increase the collaboration between dev and ops. And did it work? No. Because now we have discussions on the internet saying, well, maybe we should call it ops dev because ops is actually more important. One guy also takes it a step further. He's proposing SecDec, SecOpsSec.
He's probably
yes.
from security, right?
He is from security, yes. So he says security is pretty important at the beginning, in the middle, and at the end. So definitely we should make that very clear. If you're in security, definitely put this on your job title or your card. But then we ask, well, where's the rest? Where are the analysts, the testers, and even the project managers, right? Yes, yes, we should add them.
Yeah,
thanks.
Sure.
And
just resources anyway, right? So
yes. So,
sorry.
So we deep dived a bit into the origination of the word DevOps. And DevOps was coined by Patrick Dubois, a Belgian guy. And what he said was, well, I see that development is going agile. So everybody is now working in small iterations, and that means that pretty late, we as system administrators or infrastructure developers, we get the specifications pretty late. And we're not really used to that. We are used to getting the specifications of storage and CPU and everything the like a year ahead. So we're now falling behind and we're not helping business. Let's change that. Let's be agile in operations. That's his idea. So he started a conference and he wanted to name it System Administration's Conference. That literally did not fit on stickers. So that meant what he did is he called it DevOps Days. It's still a big conference. It still exists. So there was never a grand plan for DevOps as a word. He just found it because it really fit nicely on stickers. Of course, we do really like the lengthy discussions, and every discussion is about polarization, not at establishing some kind of collaboration. So it's right opposite of what you want, and that's what we want, right? So we are definitely going to keep that. So Flow's collaboration mindset, time to introduce you. It will be community, so not only a business. We want to take it a step further and include sustainability. Development, of course, we still have to write code. Operations, we want the analysts back. We need a little bit more thinking before we start. And, of course, security, and we place it at the end. So that's DevOps anal sex. And, however, we got some complaints from mainly backend developers. So we changed it to resources. It's also a bit shorter, so just rest.
Yeah, much better, much more polite, right? So then we need to talk about stalling people, right? So we talk about meetings, of course. Do you like meetings? Yeah, we do. Yeah, meetings. It's like our marketing manager put on LinkedIn earlier this week. He said, it's Monday again. I've been in 60 27,000 meetings today. And I says, you're welcome on my team, so you can just write code. And he was like, yeah, but where's all the meetings going to go?
I don't think you want him to write code.
No, I don't actually. I like him, but he
did
shouldn't
that
write.
recently,
No,
right?
yeah, he tried to, yes.
It was hacked in 5 minutes.
Yeah, that was terrible. I'm not going to tell where it sits because it's not really safe, actually. So yeah, let's talk about stand-ups. Do you enjoy stand-ups? Well, at least nobody seems to like them. I've been in stand-ups since 1996, or around that time, right? So it's been a long time, and you have them every day. And I used to have a customer, I had 3 in the morning. And when I came to my current customer, the tech team had 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon. Pretty pointless, I would say, but and so you can do a lot of this stuff. The only thing I think is it's nice to share what you're doing, right? But I work really closely with my team, and we work together the whole day. So we know what people are doing, right? I know that Eugene is currently writing an API to talk to Selligent and to talk to Insider. I know of all the people on my team what they're doing because we share that all the time. It's not because I'm a manager, they know what I'm doing too. And so, yeah, they're okay, but they kind of get boring, right? It gets even worse. We have this thing called the retrospective. I see you all enjoy the retrospectives, right? It's like you get to spend like 2 days before the retrospective. Yeah, we need to write our demos because otherwise we cannot demo to the client. And then you write the demos, spend 2 days, which takes a lot of time out of the time that you could actually do work. And then you go to do the demo with the client and it fails, right? That's how it should be. That's how our life is, basically. And then I'm going to say, yes, we need to improve a lot on these things. So I had a guy called Batjan. He was in my project once, like 10 years ago. Batjan, you really need to improve on this and this and this. That was retrospective 76, literally, right? It was a long-lasting project. And then we got to retrospective 77, and then we said to Batjan, so, Batjan, did you change anything about it? No, should I? And then we said, no, Batjan, you need to change it. And then we went to retrospective 78, and so, Batjan, did you really change your behavior? And no, I didn't. It goes on and on and on. We never seem to act upon the stuff that we decide to act on in the retrospective. So I tend to call these things the repeat retrospectives. So if you have those, you're good, right? So what else do we have? Well, we need to talk about actual flow, right? So this is a developer on one of our teams actually a long time ago. And he was a bit praying for his code to work, right? Well, that's logical because he works in light mode. Nobody does that, right? So that's just stupid. So the thing is, as creative people, so I'm including everybody who does creative work, to get into a state where we can actually, let's say, produce things, it takes time. It takes time for your mind to zone out and zone into the dilemma that you're solving. And it takes about, well, sort of like 10 to 15 minutes. That's the time it takes for you to get into the zone and really, really contribute, right? I'm not going to say produce, that sounds really terrible, but contribute. So in Flow, we make it a rule to break the developer flow or the creative people's flow as much as we can by just organizing random meetings throughout the week at any given point in time. Could be around 10:38 in the morning when your CEO comes in and he said, no, we need to talk about this. This is not going in the right direction. He does that actually. So, and always on short notice, right? So nobody can prepare. So we just sit in the meeting like, what are we doing here anyway? But as long as it doesn't break the flow, right? Can be about any topic you can make up, right? It can be about what are we going to have for lunch? Why don't we have snacks for lunch on Friday? I want to have snacks on lunch. Stuff like that. We actually talk about this. All these meetings last at least an hour so we can actually break the flow. By the way, it's required to be there with the whole team. Everybody needs to be in all these meetings, preferably on Teams, because on Teams you get to spend about 10 minutes saying, can you guys hear me? No, you're on mute. You're on mute. You've been there, right? So, yeah. No, that. So we need to break through that, right? And also, yeah, all this talk about self-organization, mumbo-jumbo, that's really cool because self-organization is pretty cool, actually. However, it's really hard to get there because for most people, they just want to do the work, right? They don't want to go outside of their comfort zone to see how we can do this. And as a manager or a consultant or whatever you are, it's really hard to teach people how to be autonomous because you can say, well, it's probably a bit like this, and then you'll end up there. And you don't know how to do that, right? So, and in Flow, by the way, therefore, it's illegal to experiment with mob programming because it is highly effective, except that manager always says, yes, but if you guys are, the 4 of you are working on something, I could also have each of you work on separate code. That would be much better. Nope, it isn't actually. Or work in stuff like micro teams. Do not do that. Do not pair program at all, right? Because that actually, it can help you get to better code and save time. So don't work individually.
Yes.
Yeah.
And of course, the next layer we're going to add is flow in the enterprise, because that's where the real money is.
Yes.
So the main question we can ask ourselves is, well, of course, Agile isn't Scrum. Is such a small process, is that sufficient for any big enterprise to handle all their projects, because you have all these dependencies? Or do you actually require a large-scale process?
Yes.
And of course, if you have ever read the book Accelerate, there's a lot of proof in there saying, well, the main predictor for elite performance is actually the ability to work separately from each other. So you don't want teams to handle more communication, because communication does not scale ever. So you do not need to depend on communication. You need to get rid of communication. You need to find a way to not have to ask approval to put something in production. You do not have to align with other teams like, hey, is it okay if I break your code? No, that's never okay. Don't do that. And safe won't help you. Safe will bother you to get to that goal. You need to get away with it. And then, of course, the other option is, well, we can just all copy Spotify. And because, yeah, they have a nice story with a nice success, so probably it will also work for us. Well, if you deep dive a little bit into Spotify, which I did a bit more recently, based on some feedback, I totally told the wrong story. I found out yesterday, so awkward. But what Spotify was doing, they had hypergrowth. And in this phase of hypergrowth, they found that they were searching for a way to keep autonomy in the team. So it was always meant to retain autonomy in the team. However, if you are hyper-growing, and the actual number I always told 8x, it was doubling. So it's much less.
Still.
However, it's still, if you double your amount of tech people every year, so year on year you double the amount of people, it's really hard to get the right culture, to get the right autonomy, to teach people what is our product about, what are our values. And to be able to do that, they had a factor of 1 to 2 for managers or leads versus developers. So every manager only had 2 people they were leading. The question is this context of hypergrowth also appropriate for the context that many of the companies that are adopting the Spotify model are in?
Like
usually,
banks.
no. Like banks, they grow 0.1%. That's different. You can handle that without all this, right? You don't need a ratio of 1 to 2 in managers versus developers. They just need to get out of the way. However, mostly all these companies also keep all their layers of management. So, for instance, a famous bank in the Netherlands, well, it's worldwide, it's orange, has a lion, they kept 11 layers of management on top of the Spotify model. So imagine what that does to your ratio of 1 to 2. It's 1 to 1.5 or something. You just go crazy. So yes, that's definitely what we want. We're introducing Big Flow Framework, short BFF. Everybody likes it. There's already a lot of posts about that, like, oh, it's my greatest love. We're starting with 3.0 because that's really hip to do, like Management 3.0 or Sociocracy 3.0. We will add complexity every year with a new certification round, of course. And of course, we will copy Spotify, like everybody. And we also will copy Basecamp, like all the hipsters and the startups. And we can have all these discussions about, should we be in the public cloud? So that's what we like. And of course, this is research. Somebody took the liberty to compare all the methods of scaling, so less and safe and none at all. Well, the short description is they're all equal.
Oh.
So just find something.
I think I'm going to do none then from now on.
Yes, that saves you the cost of implementation,
right?
And being bothered by all these new words.
Yeah, cool, right? So it doesn't help really, right? Any scale framework you use, they don't help. So maybe it's an idea to not do them. Well, anyway, so let's talk about tooling a bit. We need tools, right? So as there's all, the developers need tools, and we're going to prescribe what tools they are because we are the team in the company that does the standards and methodology shit. Actually, I talked to people from a well-known organization in the Netherlands who send blue envelopes every now and then, and they have this team separately that defines all their standards and procedures and tools and whatever they might use. And they never talk to any of the development teams, right? So they just prescribe tools or approaches, methodologies, whatever, right? So we're going to do that too. So let's talk about boards. You need boards. This is a project in France. In France, of course, they need more visuals. And I see that in most countries. Right? It's like boards and boards and boards full of stuff. And you might think, so what is it doing? Well, it's basically preventing our clients to see that we don't have any progress whatsoever. So we do that, and you have to have at least 20 columns because that looks more professional, right? And by the way, in Enterprise Flow, you have to put all these boards into a separate room, which we then call the boardroom. That kind of makes sense, right? It does, right? And then, well, apparently you need a burn chart. I'll show you what a burn chart is. I showed you the burn down chart earlier, right? So now we have the burn chart. Because this is the one we have in Flow. This is a chart coming out of a project we actually did together. And we worked quite hard with the team, right? So we still did story points. I don't do story points. So we figured out how to do all these story points, and we did a lot of work, actually. But the problem was that while we did all the work, the rest of the company came up with even more work. So this is the points remaining. So we did a lot of points, but the amount of points remaining, so the ones that we still hadn't done, it kept on growing too. So we never got to the end of this project. We do spend a lot of money though, right? So that's why we call this a burn chart. So then the most mandatory tool of all, it's our favorite tool, right?
Yes.
I still don't know how to handle this thing. So it's mandatory in Flow to have Jira because it confuses people, right? I never know how to create a ticket. Everything's a ticket. I don't do tickets, I write code. No, anyway, tickets. Yeah, so, and Jira means agile, right? If you have Jira in your organization, you are agile. Let me assure you that. So, and then, of course, we have a Scrum board and a Kanban board. Because they're sort of like the same. I even don't know what the difference is. Then people start doing estimates in Jira. They put them in Jira. They also register worked hours, so managers can sort of check the individual performance of people, which is terrible, of course. We shouldn't do that. Well, in Flow we do, but yeah. Anyway, so, and then people put in the requirements and their design. I'll give you an example. This is one of the things I was recently working on. It's the FAQ section of our website. They put all the requirements, including all this stuff, which of course is in Figma, but anyway, it clicks through. But you put everything in Jira because, well, if it's in Jira, you don't know how to find it anymore, right? It's there somewhere. You say, yeah, it's in the ticket. Yeah, where's the ticket? On what fucking board is that ticket? So Jira's mandatory, right? And then we figured out, well, we don't want people to communicate to each other, right? So we got some nice ideas around that. First of all, you need to be in open floor plans. Right? Because open floor plans are really nice, especially if you want to do some actual work that requires focus, and then people are started talking everywhere, and it's like, oh no, I cannot do my work anymore. So this is good. And then, of course, we require all resources to wear noise-canceling headphones. We all have them, I know, because this allows us from handling. We even experimented with VR glasses, but that sort of went the wrong way, right? So we introduced Slack. Slack is the next mandatory tool. So yes, so because we need to stay in Flow, we're not allowed to talk to other people. That means we communicate through Slack. Even if the resources are sitting right next to you, they'll send you messages, right? Why is that? Well, because they're wearing the noise-canceling headphones and they don't want to be interrupted, right? So that's what we do. Occasionally, we allow for pair slacking, which is pretty inefficient, but yeah, well, it beats pair programming, right? And it beats people talking to each other. We do create channels for everything we can think of. We even have a channel called We Are Free, which basically we report when we are free, which we do, right? Is there more? No, that's it, right?
No, that's it.
So yes, Slack is mandatory, right?
Yeah, definitely.
You like Slack?
Yeah, in a way I do.
Really?
I like
we need to talk after this.
Oh, I'm going to be in trouble. So I do like that I can send somebody a message that's not urgent and not bother them while they're busy.
Oh.
So it has its benefits, but manifestos don't. So that's an easy one. What is a manifesto? Well, it's a published verbal declaration of the intentions, motives, and views of the issuer. So if you look at the Agile Manifesto, it doesn't only have the 4 lines. It has also additional pages with principles that truly make sense. However, little people read them. But actually, if you strive
Little
for
people?
a team that will...
You mean few, right?
I mean you.
Just yeah.
Phew. Okay, that's going wrong. So, but it has these additional pages, and if you find a way to actually adhere to these principles, yeah, you're on your way. However, this is what it's known for, right? The 4 lines were saying also, even the bottom line is never read. It said, while we value the things on the right, we prioritize the things on the left. So it's not that Agile says you cannot do documentation. I've heard that line a million times. You are still allowed to do documentation. Just make sure that you focus on working software more. And documentation is a part of that, right? And then people just copied that, because copying is what many people like. So this is the Software Craftsman Manifesto. There's no additional pages. This is it. This is the Agile HR Manifesto. So that's nice. You see the pattern now, right? Just 4 lines, you're done. They added a 5th one. They want to be special.
6.
And then this is the response programming motherfucker manifesto.
This is my favorite, actually.
So
I live by this.
The big question is, can we also talk about code, of course? So yes, we want the flow manifest because that's super useful. We want extensive certification over hands-on experience, copying methodologies over thinking for yourself. We want tool-driven confusion over building working software, endless meetings over focused flow, and of course we want mandatory gamification over authentic autonomy. And that is, while we ignore the things on the right, we just do the things on the left. So just be clear about that, right? And and to add a little popularity to it, we just call it a micro-fest. It's so short anyway, right?
Yeah.
So next topic.
Next topic, the really important topic, of course, right? Because that's what we do, right? Yeah, don't worry, we'll be all right. So let me talk a little bit about dogma, just 1 second, right? So here's the thing. Dogma is the established belief or doctrine held by a religion or a particular group of organization. It's authoritative and not to be disputed, doubted, or diverged from by the practitioners or believers. This is Scrum, right? So, or at least that's what I read about Scrum, right? It's like, no, you have to do Scrum like this. And what should a Scrum Master do? Exactly this, because that's in the booklet, basically, right? So, and then there's the problem with that, right? It's like, what people tend to do is, well, they can call themselves a Scrum Master really easily, right? So if you do, like, karate, for instance, yeah, like you're Ralph Macchio, right? You do karate. How much time does it take you to practice to become a karate master?
I practiced like 20 hours per week for many years.
For many years. So that's more than 10,000 hours, right?
Yes.
And that's only to become Dutch champion, right? You're not even the world champion by then. But you can be a Scrum Master, doing a 2-day training course, pay a lot of money, do a 30-minute certification, multiple choice questionnaire, and you can save the world, basically, right? That's it. Scrum Master, right? It should be called something like, I did my Scrum certification.
Beginner.
Scrum beginner, Scrummer, whatever, right? So we figured, yes, we need certification too, right? Well, basically, why do we need certification? Well, because we have professionals in the team, and yes, we need to make money too, right? So that's certification. Certification is a scheme to make money, basically, for the larger part of it, right? It's like, I don't know how many different CSM, PSM, CPOs, PA, PP, whatever they have these days. There's tons of them, right? You can be certified in everything. Basically stuff that has nothing to do with being in Scrum whatsoever. Still, they make money out of it, right? So we do that too. We do a multiple choice questionnaire, and then you're ready to go off and do the teams in Flow, right? So what's in our certification? Well, the easy thing is you can become a certified Flow resource too. All of you, basically. So you have to take our courses, and our courses, well, you learn how to rip off Post-it notes, because that's vital. Also, you need to, you learn how to move items on a Jira board. That's why I always fail, right? It's like, I have no idea how to do this stuff. I let other people do that for me, by the way. So, and you learn how to decorate your workplace. So we bring all papers and Post-its and markers and stuff, and paper, tape, and whatever, right? Stuff like that. And 2-day courses, just way too long. Nobody can do that anymore. Like, the kids these days, they have like a span of attention of like 5 minutes, or whenever the next Reddit article comes by and stuff. So yes, let's make it like, what about a 1-hour keynote? So if you do a 1-hour keynote, that's enough training to do the job. Right, you're not there yet, because of course, we are going to do a certification exam right now, actually. Yeah. So you do the first question, right?
Yeah, but you can click it.
Oh,
so
good.
what roles do we have in Flow? Well, managers, project managers, and product owners.
Oh,
or
yeah.
we are all one team. Is it lots and lots, except for the testers, of
Yes,
course?
yeah.
Or resources?
Yeah. Well, so write down your answer, please. Remember this stuff so we can do. Question 2, why do we have retrospectives in Flow? Well, first of all, it's to interrupt the daily flow of our resources. Second of all, totally endlessly discuss why the resources in the project should work harder but don't. And the third thing is, well, we can spend 2 days on preparing a demo, which we then, answer D, see fail together with our customers. Sounds like good, right?
Hard one, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So, and we have certification in Flow because we want well-trained resources in our project.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Or is it because we want to make our methodology look important?
Yeah.
It is so complicated you just need lots and lots of training, or because we want to make money.
So these were the questions. I hope you all wrote down your answers. And so we're going to announce it now. Actually, all the answers are correct. So you're now all past the exam, right? So take out your cameras. I forgot to change the date. I should have done this. This is the. Oh, that is sad. I will make a new one actually.
Yes.
So I forgot to do this.
We will send it around on Twitter.
Oh yeah, my fault.
Yes.
By the way, there's also an annual continuation fee of 200 euros payable to our account.
Yes.
So enough with the fun, right? We should do some serious stuff. So there is stuff that we actually do believe in, right? So
so this was slightly ironical, if you didn't notice.
What?
Yeah.
So what do we believe actually? So we believe software is built by people, right? So the people should be in the center. Even though all the AI that we have, and I use it every day, it's still the people that do the job. It's us that does the thinking, right? It's the creative work. It's not so much the typing, it's the creative work. And for creative work, we need people. Hence, the people should be centric.
Yes, definitely. And we believe that every organization will create and evolve the methodology that really fits them best.
And should.
So that means you have your own context, you have your own circumstances where you work in, and you have to think for yourself, what is the optimal way to develop our organization and to develop our product? Yep. And that will change over time. Spotify actually never did the Spotify model. That's one of the best kept secrets. They thought about it in paper, and right from the first week, they changed it.
Yep.
Because it needs to be changed given experience. Experience is the thing that counts. So it's good to find inspiration of how other people do it, but don't ever copy it. You need to think for yourself.
And don't ever stall there, right? If you are working in the exact same way as you did a year ago, there's something wrong, actually, right? And think for yourself, if our approach, if the way we work didn't change, we didn't learn anything. Because there's always something that is slightly better than what you did a year ago, right? So next thing is, personal communication is still king, right? It is talking to other people. That's why I love doing in-person events instead of online events. I don't do them anymore, actually. So it's like talking to the people every day on a daily basis in whatever circumstance, right? That works the best if you have to create software, no doubt.
And trust and personal safety rule. So what I see in many agile approaches is that we keep telling people they're doing things wrong. They're doing estimates wrong, they're doing the sprints wrong, they are talking about requirements which is not their job, they're doing everything wrong. And what happens is that people close up. People start asking for approvals instead of having a professional opinion. They start just going with the flow, basically, instead of saying, no, this is not how we're going to do it. I don't accept it. And if you don't build a culture where everybody has a voice, literally everybody, then you're just not making the most of your people.
That includes testers, right?
Shame, and it includes testers and women. Yes. Make sure everybody has a voice.
We're not in the joking part of this session anymore, right? So,
we forgot.
And little people. so yes, and so creating software, or basically all creative work, requires focus and attention. So you need to allow people to get into focus. In my team, I made it, the only rule is we do the work we think we need to do. That can mean different things for different people. That can also mean at different times than other people, right? Some of people in my team start really early. I can actually text them at 6 in the morning. which is like 5 in the morning here, I guess, but then I was sleeping. And they'll answer because, well, they're working at that time. Other people work throughout the weekend or work at night or work in the day. The only rule we currently have is we spend the Thursdays in the office so we can just sit together. And actually, a lot of people come to the office voluntarily more often than that. It's kind of nice because the personal communication is key. But so you have to allow people to do the work in the way that they see fit. Right? It's their work. Don't try to prescribe how to do work to other people. There's only a limited amount of things that you need to border them in or want to border them in, but the rest of it is up to them or up to us, basically, right?
Yeah, it's really hard when you're stuck or when you have to like focus 8 hours in a row. So give people space to do that differently, to do that in the way they like, right? It's their job. And what we also believe is continuous learning is essential. So when you go from strict deadline to deadline to deadline, what happens? You let the person who already knows how to do the job, because that's the fastest way. Yep. However, there's no sustainability in that choice. There's little time for learning in teams when you constantly have to push to even make it at all. So you have to change the way that you plan work with teams, because in your planning it should always include time to share, work on things together, spend time on learning. Because if you're in stress mode all the time, working from deadline to deadline, you're just gonna miss the boat in the rapid growth that we have in tech. Things are changing every year.
Every day, actually.
Every day. Yeah.
And so the best way to do that is to become as much self-organizing as you can. I know that's different for every company. That's why it's different companies and different cultures. But try to get the most out of this, right? So I'm not going to say to my people, so I want you to do this. When I just started with my current team, I had developers on the team say, so what do you want me to do? Do you want me to work on a new TypeScript thing, or you want me to work on the EAP system? I'm like, it's your work. You decide, right? Yeah, but then she said, what do you want me to do? And I said, I don't know. It's your work. You should know, right? It's your responsibility first, but it's also your life. Decide on it yourself, right? Don't ask me for it. I didn't actually know, by the way. And now we're 3 years down the road, and she doesn't do that anymore, actually. She does it on her own, and she figures out what to do. I actually don't tell people anything about what to do. It just comes off what we call the tech board, and we'll just pick it up, and somebody in the team will say, oh, I'll pick up the next one. Okay, good. And, oh, you know what? I'll join you. Stuff like that, right? It makes it a lot more nice to work with people, right?
Yeah, definitely. And organizations need to be as flat as possible with as little hierarchy as possible. So I told you at the start, we're a company without managers, and we still have informal hierarchy, and somehow it still really pushes people. So that means that any layer of hierarchy will do things to people. The only way to get true autonomy is to get rid of them. So be flat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then the last thing, which is for me as an old guy, well, it's not the last thing actually, but for me as an old, I don't remember the rest, I'm an old guy, right? So it's actually older people or people with a lot of experience, they do matter a lot actually. Because getting older, I started to realize that I actually truly enjoy working with other people on code, whether that's my code or their code. It's just the working together and to see that ideas convey. And I have a lot of ideas because, well, I've done this for a very long time, right? So, and that is highly valuable, right? So don't discourage old people. It's like, please.
Be kind.
Yeah, be kind to old people and little people.
And this is just a compass. So any methodology is there to help you. When you find you have implemented the methodology and make things worse, because now you don't know how to even adhere to all the new things that you have to adhere to, then you're doing it wrong. The methodology is there to help you, not to make it impossible to do anything. So if it ever increases the complexity, evolve it into something better. Yep. That was never the point.
Start going in the opposite direction if you have it, right? So, yeah, true. So that's more or less what we believe in, and that means very little process, actually, right?
Yes. And instead?
Instead, well, we are in the best industry in the world, right? There's nothing better. So I haven't been a software developer for so long. If I wouldn't have fun in it, right? This is the most fun industry. And as long as we can keep doing what we're doing and have the freedom to do it in the way that we want to organize it and we want to do it and keep the trust and the safety in the team, then we're good. So thank you all for being here, and I hope you do enjoy the rest of the conference, and I hope the weather is going to improve, because I need beer. And yeah, so if you have any questions whatsoever, we'll be here for the rest of the day, and we love talking to you.